I need you to explain a little bit about this fifth dimensional chess game between the gods. What are we talking about here? Like, where's this taking place at? Because we're
It's ta-
projecting, yeah.
the game is taking place all around you. The problem is because we've been so externally oriented, we can't see it. We go back to the Matrix when Morpheus was telling Neo that the world is the deception that's been pulled down over his eyes. That's the Matrix.
Yeah.
Right? Right now we in a holographic mind matrix. A holograph mean all parts is the same as the whole.
The whole, right.
Right. So we're trying to get to event horizon off of 100 monkey effect. Each one teach one. We all gonna reach some. Don't ask nobody shit. Go out and put your hands on the earth and ask her where you belong. And if you don't belong here, every circumstance in your life gonna lead you where you're supposed to be. It's just gonna align just like that because you have to tune into the earth for the earth to tell you where to be at. This is the same as birds flying south for the winter. We tread the land and we end up. I had to be in the right hand of the Great Mother, which is Michigan, right? The left hand salute is over the right hand. They call it the Upper Peninsula, right? So I had to be here in the right hand of the Mother Earth in order to be able to assimilate an energy frequency that's coming in on solar rays. So it's the symbol at the Joe Louis of the statue holding the sun in its hand. That's the symbol of the power of Michigan.
Right.
But the sun, fire can't burn the sun. Right? That's the saying. The fire can't burn the sun because it's composed of fire. Right? That's like a fire burning itself. Can't happen. It can't be too hot for itself. Right? So it's the same, all parts being part of the whole. Any one part, microcosm of the macrocosm. Right? This is your Renaissance man painting by Leonardo da Vinci. You see, you have the man's arm in 3 stages. Some of them have 2, some got 4, depending on what. All of that is different ways of looking at the galactic clock. In European culture, it's called the Grand Man. In our culture, it's called Tawaret, the Great Mother. So they flipped our culture over and gave us patriarchy to confuse us. Right? So the patriarchal agenda is a conquest agenda and it's a warring agenda. That's part of the game. Right? Toy soldiers. Pawns in the game. Right? So what we look at, the elders is telling us what they see, but they don't know what they're looking at. They tell us what they see, but they don't know what they're looking at when they telling us. We got to put enough for the elders' communications together in order to paint a picture of the elephant that they're looking at. Right? They call that raising the matriarchy. They all got to give you a piece. That's why the Marines, they say the POW, some gave all gave some. Everybody in this game, whether they want to be or not. Right? Most of us kicking and screaming, but we don't know that half of us came here just to kick and scream because we don't got nothing to kick and scream about in truth. It's all an illusion of the mind called misery. It's the chapter we in, Noble Ali. Right? We in the chapter of misery because we are strong enough to endure the pain at the bottom. So we square off against the enemy as pawns, but we got to rise to the level of greatness in whatever we do. This is what they say, let your light shine in the world. Right? And when your 2 eyes are one, the whole body is filled with light, and the light is the love of the world. Right? So you bring in back, you turn into what starts out as a war story in the game of the gods on the chessboard, ends up closing out as a love story. And then every story of the war story has turned into a love story, and that kills all opposition to greatness. The greatest love of all, remember? Learn to love yourself, the greatest love. They told you. They was telling you in the music because that's a blues note, blue house knock off of a Mississippi River backwood knocking. This is how they use. This is where blues singers come from. They ain't just come out the South and start singing the blues to the public because it was just something they wanted to do. They was trying to get money because there wasn't no money in it when they started it. So we just gonna brush over it real quick.
Okay.
I was born in Chicago under the banner of David Barksdale and Larry Hoover. I grew up between Chicago and Michigan. In Michigan, we lived in Grand Rapids and Pontiac. And in Pontiac, I had to go through a whole lot of my trials as a teenager, establishing my position in the community here. They call it putting in work, right? So I put in work here. They said I was a big fish in a small pond. So they took me out to Lake Michigan and flipped me across Lake Michigan back to where I was born to see if I could get it from the dirt and if I was truly a big fish in a small pond. Well, when they got done running their tests on me in Chicago, that's Chief Malik Angel Bay and Larry Hoover, the word came back. That nigga not no big fish in the pond, in the lake. That motherfucker is a whale in the lake. Because, I'm politically incorrect. So the politics ain't correct. So it's hard for me to be politically correct sometimes. Anyway, so during the course, I went through the system as we all end up doing when we out in the streets doing what we do out there. And going through the system, I began a journey of self-discovery and self-education. My oldest brother and my sister right under me, they used to buy my book supply. Instead of, how people always be like, send me some money when they get locked up. I was like, send me some books. Send me some more books. I was like Johnny Five, more input, more input. But I didn't know while I was going through my struggles that I was being trained for something. And my character being tested at every turn. Slandered, talked about, looked down upon, frowned on, kicked to the curb, and I still stayed who I was. They call it remaining pure at heart. This is part of the testing for chiefs on the land. As we go across the land, how do you be received by the other clans on the land? And while I was trying to evade the law for 6 years, I used that 6 years to traverse the land and become familiar with the different customs from my elders in the South, from the Northeast. I was going over all of the territory that I was responsible for putting Big Mama back in her place so she can balance back out the tribes. So this was a journey of training that I didn't know I was on. Well, it came word through the Wind Talker channel. If you're not a native to the land, you have no clue what I'm talking about when I say Wind Talker channel. But the Wind Talker channel is they call them code talkers. The CIA used them in World War II to crack the Japanese codes when they was talking in code. But when we talk the wind talk, they can't never crack it because we listening to nature and we talking to nature. Nature, two chiefs is like being on the telephone. They can be in nature on different parts of the planet and communicate with each other using the method that we call the wind talking channel. And this is shamanic training of indigenous origin or organic American origin. Those who was here from time immemorial. We call them totem clans, right? The totem clans is the first clans. That's why that's the law of the totem pole is the law of the land, and the law of the flag is the law of the seas. We didn't wave flags over here until Europe settled over here. When Europe settled over here, we made a flag that we called a Confederate flag. And we made the banner known as the banner of the Great Law. So that we had a flag that shows our presence in places without being conspicuous to the enemy of who we are. So they demonized the Confederate flag, said it represented slavery and oppression to our people. All the time, it's Old Glory that all of the racist blood is settled on. The one we pledge allegiance to in elementary school because none of our parents don't know any better. It was Old Glory that Oklahoma City was bombed. It wasn't the Confederate flag. It was under Old Glory that Rosewood was burned down. It wasn't the Confederate flag. It was under Old Glory when they bombed the Move Party, the Move family, Giant Africa in Philadelphia. That was under Old Glory. But we have a selective memory if it doesn't fit the Eurocentric paradigm given to reject any possibility that one of us know what we're talking about. So when they say we had to teach a hard-headed people, I know what they mean now. Because we stuck on false narratives.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody got a piece of the false narrative that they will kill you about. The righteous...
I'm sorry.
Oops, I'm sorry, sweetie.
I don't want to stop you. I don't want to stop your wisdom at all.
Okay, so in settling back to who I am, because I'm from a totem clan, an old Mississippian, the Black Gorilla family, right? The Gorilla clan, that's my totem. And the gorilla position is right before you go out into the arena. So we always on deck, but we ain't supposed to be called until nobody else can't fix the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I come in and I'm analyzing the historical narrative given, and then I'm knocking on the Wind Talker channel to verify if the information is correct. Now, some people would say that you get it from psychic means, but it's talking to chiefs. A chief that ever lived on this land, his spirit still speak from the ancestral realm on the Wind Talker channel. So we can communicate with all of the past chiefs using the Hayoka priest method of wind talking or code talking, talking to nature. The ancestral realm is weaved into nature. This is how we have clans named after animals. That's named after the animal because it's their totem. It's the family totem, right? And sometimes the family totem is a body part, as in the case of the Blackfoot, right? And they was called that for several reasons. One of them because when they was going to the Gullah Wars, coming from the center of the country, they walked barefooted, and the sun cooked their feet. When Big Mama seen them, she called them Blackfeet. Not to mention that was what they did to identify the enemies that they captured and killed, is take one of his foot. And anybody seen the decaying foot, it turned black. So all of these was terms to identify who they are, what they did. So when we listening to the elders, they left it in the pottery. They spit it in the music. We listen to the old Delta blues, and we can get codes out of there from the ancestors that was before the settlers. Because some of those songs that they call old blues tunes been sang for generations, telling us a story. Those are the griots of the land telling the story in song format that they used to do dancing around the fire. Now they put it on wax and ship it across the country. All of the people get exposed to it, but all of the people don't know what they're listening to. They think they just listening to good music, right? So you got songs like Keep My Mojo Working, right? What he talking about? You got a real big one called I Put a Hex on You. What they talking about? They reminding you that we was the ones who had the conjure of they call voodoo long before settlers came. And voodoo is using the forces of nature to do your bidding for you. So you don't have to go to war with nobody. You can just let the rain flood them out. You can let them get struck by a bolt of lightning. Master student, Malachi the master teacher.
Master student.
I did all that debating in the joint. I debated with all of them. I debated with the Moors. I debated with the Nation of Islam, with the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Christians, and they all don't realize before 1492, none of that stuff that had nothing to do with us. No. First of all, it wasn't called voodoo in Africa. And it's still not called voodoo in Africa. But it's the same science of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
All shamans have a piece. That's why we got to use the Wind Talker channel so that when certain chiefs come, he can communicate with so many other chiefs to get their piece to put together the solution to whatever the problem is, no matter what it is. Every problem got a solution.
Every problem got a solution.
Because we too dark to tell them the truth. Our skin complexion doesn't match the 500 years of an inundation with pale faces as truth holders. So when we come, they tell you, oh, I don't hear that black shit. Or they tell you, oh, you just talking that Islam stuff. They don't got nothing to do with Islam. Islam Arab culture. Well, that's not got nothing to do with us. They drugged that over here. Right?
And, yeah.
And they don't even know what it is. The people practicing Islam have no clue what Islam is. Only the Sufis know the truth that's willing to tell it. But they all think that the Sufi is crazy. And they tell the average Muslim to avoid the Sufi because they heretics. They don't believe that Allah, they believe in Allah. But because they was threatened with death, they teach it as Allah, but they know what it is in truth. When they talk about the Hijra is the march of the matriarchs. That's what all the elephants represented. They don't even know that. Right? And then it's telling you about the birds that flew in and dropped the burning stones on them that ate your flesh. Those were bombs. Those were bombs they was dropping from planes. But they have us thinking that Orville Wright, the Wright brothers, invented the plane. They've been flying around Earth for millions of years. All of a sudden, they think all this stuff is new. Ain't nothing new under the sun. We did all this stuff before. We gonna do it again. All we do as eternal beings is trying to find a cause for existence. So we need something to do for eternity. So we allow civilizations to rise and run their lifespan and fall. This is the last leg of the Babylonian Empire. Why do we say Babylonian Empire? Because the forces that's holding these fictitious governments in place trace all the way back to Babylon. Through Rome, through Greece to Babylon. Right? So if Babylon's doctrines is the doctrines that's ruling the world, then we have to be aware of what their doctrines is. They call the rights of sin or sin rights, named after Ninner sin. But they got you thinking that sin is a verb. It's something that you do. They don't tell you that sin is one of the gods. And that if you a sinner, you practice his doctrines. Well, what is his doctrines? See, all of these intelligent scholars, they know a lot of stuff, but they don't know what it means.
To me,
To be a sinner, you have to be a practitioner of what we call sin rites. That's Babylonian blood magic, Babylonian sex magic, and Babylonian money magic. They was passed in the Talmud and the Mishnah in pieces. And part of it is in the Torah. Right? And they have other extant so-called Jewish writings, like the Holy Sephirah or the Kabbalah. That's all telling you what the sin rites is. So now you know when you take communion, why you a sinner, because you practicing the Babylonian blood rite of simulated cannibalism. As long as you simulating the cannibalism and you believe that you consuming a deity, then you holding the construct in place with your energy, even if you don't know what it means. So they tell you to eat of his flesh and to drink of his blood, right? And they tell us that he drank from the holy chalice. He was the carpenter's son, but he drank from a holy chalice. And everybody like, it's a cup. No, the holy chalice is the chalice of the chaste woman, which is the design of a garment that she wore that covered up her holy parts, her sacred yoni. But we don't know what none of that stuff means, so we take the white man's lies to be the truth. That's just not the case. So going through the schools that I went through, I was able to see from a different perspective because I wasn't influenced by the educational system enough for them to control how I think.
So
arrested development didn't work. Yeah.
Yeah.
When the mind is split, we have a Mandela effect.
Go ahead.
But when it comes back together, then the Mandela effect comes into a new reality. It merges two timelines together to bring unity between cosmic forces. It's a conceptual physics formula scattered out in story format in fairy tales and mystery stories, legends of old, right? Because what's in your subconscious comes from the superconscious, which is filtered through the earth consciousness itself.
Somebody asks what's going. Okay. Somebody asks what's going. Hey, before you answer this question though, my next thing because hey, how long? Because Bible said 2030. This will be. He said that we'll go through these 7 years before 2030, where they're being ripped out, and it's just like you're saying right now. They starting fires. They doing all this stuff to make it chaotic on the land. So we got how long do you think we got of this chaos? Like, and you I heard you say earlier that we're gonna need to. It's gonna be you say in between a week to 6 months. I think you said or 90 days that we had to have.
That's the blackout.
Okay, the blackout. So
The blackout can be anywhere from.
Okay, go ahead.
Right. It could be anywhere from the black could be anywhere from 30 minutes to 90 days.
Okay.
Right. The cease movement can be a cease movement for anywhere for a couple of hours to 90 days.
When they block the interstates and shit.
Yeah. Right. Now, what was a catalyst in the forest fires is if a caravan of deep state actors hit a highway, they can shut them all down.
Wow.
So you remember, they got private armies in the woods on private campgrounds or private, I should say, ranching grounds.
The cartel.
And they got little villages carved out in the middle of the woods. So they be burning the village out. But if they happen to escape and hit an interstate, they'll shut all of the interstates down so you won't know which interstate they're using where they fighting that war. This basic understanding of military protocol will show you an idea of what kind of catalysts would cause them to shut down the freeways in continuity of government status. The only thing that would cause them to have to shut the freeways down is if they know that a whole army of these motherfuckers didn't escape and they got to shut a freeway down, but so they don't know that they know exactly where they at, they'll shut them all down. And that'll keep us wondering what the hell going on.
Go ahead.
But they over there blowing up shit, tearing up shit, setting shit on fire, and reporting it to us later on as a forest fire. It was a bad fire in Idaho, somewhere in the middle of nowhere, or in Canada, it was a big old wildfire just bust out. No, they set those fires for a reason.
Yeah.
Remember, I'm gonna give you a reference about them using fire to clear the forest embankments. If you go back to the Vietnam War, they was using Agent Orange and napalm clearing the forest for the soldiers to be able to get in there. That's the same thing they doing now. But now they done got it where they can burn small patches and trap you in the middle of it. See, they done got surgical with it because they can use laser beam precision with fires.
Yeah.
Literally.
That's right. It did the same thing during the Seminole Wars. The Seminole Wars, they burned them they burned all them trees down. Like you was talking about in Florida, all the big trees we had, they burned them down and they like surrounded them with a fire to get them in one little closed area so they can come down on them.
Now remember, we used to walk treetops if we wanted to from Louisiana to Florida.
That's right. That's right.
Now remember in early colonial America, the big deal was being what? A lumberjack.
That's right.
Right? So the lumberjacks is the ones who continued to clear the land in the ceasefire period of the contract. So now you can drive long stretches between Arkansas, Alabama, Georgia, and Mississippi to Louisiana and see patches of open area that wasn't there before.
That's right.
Right? They use them to build their disposable houses. We didn't build disposable houses. This shit they build and call it houses now, none of our craftsmen that's native to our culture would agree with it.
Go ahead.
That's not how we built. Quality was more important. We wanted to build a castle, so we used stone so that mug will stand up for a long time.
Right. That's right.
Right. That's a cultural phenomenon. Pyramids is a cultural. Yeah, pyramids is a cultural phenomenon. There's only one culture in the history of the world that ever built pyramids.
Go ahead.
Right? Because the people that y'all calling Kemet, your dynasties of Egypt, they just came and strolled over some ruins of the shit we left behind.
Go ahead.
Right? So they cleaned up a little bit of sand from around them and set up their empires. Right? Reenactment of historical events that took place there by looking at the hieroglyphic depictions telling you the stories.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right?
You know,
so you was asking about a time frame.
Yeah.
I can't give you a time frame. I can give you a reference. Can you pull up Google?
Was going down there to unchain them to come up.
That's a challenge to the paradigm given, that they never thought that we would be able to critically think enough to just analyze the narrative to determine if it was reasonable. Why would you bring all the people for Africa when it was people already here? Okay, one of the problems I got with them keep telling me my land stolen. I keep walking on it everywhere I go. Part of the theft had to be the concealment. Where is the concealment part of the theft? That's what they need to be trying to investigate. Because if we still see the land, then that means that it's another method of concealment for them to steal it. What are they concealing that is allowing them to hold on to the land?
And they're the visitors. They're the ones that came over here on this land.
See, from over here, from the paradigm of an organic Mississippi walking red clay dirt Negro, they want us to claim to be from Africa, to disassociate ourselves from this land. Because once we disassociated from the land, we surrender the birthright.
Absolutely. I agree 100%.
If you know who you are and you asserting your birthright on the land that you from, while you living free on the land, they have to honor that. But most of us want to accept the paradigm that was shoved down our throats in 400 years of Westerners educating our children as to what's to be accepted as the truth or not. It's a uniform system. You can't get that out your head. It's a uniform system. It's written in a uniform format to follow the uniform commercial code of the admiralty jurisdiction of the occupiers that's occupying our land. They didn't steal it. They just convinced you wasn't from it. It's still here, and you still, the sisters have the first right to the birthright of the earth rights. What that means is, by mitochondrial connection, first in time is first in order. This is why they say the last shall be made first and the first shall be made last, because the first was already playing the back position, the last position. Malcolm told you we was the caboose on the train. What is he telling you in tribal talk versus the common language? So now we have to put the caboose as the engine, because the engine broke down. Now the caboose is leading the train as the engine, because it was really the engine the whole time. It was just the engine being dragged around by another engine. So if the last becomes first, that means that the so-called white man's world falls down and the black woman world returns. Well, we call it the black woman world because she's first in time, first in line for the inheritance of the earth right. The earth right is the right to restore the balance to Earth's nature, air, land, and water. That's the great law. The earth rights, RITES, is the practice of executing the restoration by restoring the great mother to her position of prominence. This is the only way Earth can be balanced. It's the only way it's ever been balanced under the great matriarchy of the Great Mother. Every 26,000 years, we have to rewrite the future. And over the course of the 26,000 years, what started out as a golden age will deteriorate because it's following the laws of nature, and that's called entropy. It can't stay a permanent system because nothing in nature is permanent. Everything rise up, fall down, rise up, fall down, ebb and flow. Right? The blood of the original people is the blood right to redeem. Whether y'all believe me or not, these people know who every one of us is. They've been following us since birth. They followed our parents and our grandparents. And it's certain families that they kept the closest watch on because those were the heirs that had the right to take everything from the enemies that's squatting on the land as a military occupational regime masquerading as our government. Right? So when we assert our birthright, it don't matter. I don't care if I don't know none of my ancestors. I know who I am. And I know where I'm from, first in time, first in order, right? I'm the firstborn of the earthborn parthogenic son of the Great Mother. So whenever it get out of control and can't nobody fix it, mama call her baby boy.
Okay.
So if they don't know what that means, they better go ask their Masonic brothers. Because they gonna tell him, if you're telling me if he's saying that what he told you, that would mean Hiram is raised and he's walking. They don't know who Hiram is. The Masons know what I'm talking about, right? Because Hiram Abiff, the master builder, is the one who have to exhume the Great Mother from the shrine of the Black Madonna. Why do they call it that? Right? He in the tomb, she in the shrine. That's a 2-bar cane in a 4-corner shuffle. That's a 7-sister seal, Pleiadian knot. This is all code that we all used to know when we have meetings with each other on foreign parts of the land that we ain't from as a visitor. But now it sounds foreign to our people when you're using a foreign language, but you're using our code to talk it. All of the lodges know what's up. I don't care if they don't never show up. They know what the real deal is. They know that they came over here messing with these feather-wearing Afro chiefs, and they got their tails handed to them. Right? Tupac talk about it all through his music, but don't nobody know what he's saying in the code talker language, but they know what he's saying in English, in the colloquial language of the hood. But he talking code talk too. Biggie was too. ODB was too. These chiefs. But they can't come up through the traditional leadership roles because the leadership roles been usurped. And anybody that try to rise up in politics or anything of that matter, activism, is murder. And if they figure out that we talking to each other, they gonna try to murder us until one of us claim the birthright before they can murder us. Now they gotta listen to them even if they don't want to. And the process is to look up Pretender to the Throne. There's a process as a pretender to the throne you have to go through to claim your throne. If you don't know what the process is, and it's above your pay grade.
Right. Over
here, the chiefs have a certain way to raise a chief to prominence. If you don't know what it is, that's above your pay grade. Your spiritual rank ain't high enough to know what's going on. So now you're running around using what the paleface told you in the book as your source. And the worst of the misleaders is they look like us. Because the people we fighting the whole time, they brought all of this war to our doorstep and swore to never surrender and hold us as our eternal enemy, We didn't swear no ill will to them people. They done that to us. Our big mamas took them in and fed them when they came on them ships. And what they do? They massacred us. And then they told us it was somebody else with a pale face. The original French, Dutch, Portuguese, and Irish that came over here, they wasn't buttermilk complexion. But we don't know that because them the lies they tell in the books when they rewrite history. She have to learn how to read her emotions, and she'll have a literal blueprint to ascension. Most women, the ones that they call toxic, don't learn to read their emotions. They use their emotions to fly off the handle about whatever it is. When your emotions giving you more information, once you learn how to read it, it's a navigation system. Another thing is talk to your uterus. If you're a woman, clasp your hands together over your uterus. Close your eyes, relax, and just say, Big Mama, tell me whatever I need to know. It's Jesus on the main line because Jesus is Isis. The main line is the uterus. It's a portal of life that's only seen in creation. So if it's a portal, it don't matter what your skin complexion is now. Once you got that uterus on earth, you have power to talk to prime source if you tap into that energy, right? Another thing is raise your vibration by not feeding into low vibrational activity. You start to walk in what's called your earth angel form. And you can tell the women that do that because they can be old as hell, but they still look like a teenager in the face. She like a gray-haired teenager, right? Because they take care of themselves spiritually. In that spiritual light, it corrects the beauty flaws, right? So you have to also be aware of the fact that when you ground in with the earth's mitochondrial is talking to the mitochondrial in the woman. It's y'all trading information on birth defects, how to get rid of them. Y'all going over how to manage the Y chromosome. All this is taking place in the mitochondrial communication between Earth and women. The Y chromosome is a mutation. So it has to be regulated by something that's not mutated in order for it to have its optimum performance. And that responsibility goes to the mitochondria while the woman is gestating. And this is why she don't always make every Y active. And sometimes when it would have came in as a boy, she overrode it and said, nope, the DNA is faulty. This one's going to have to be a girl to correct the error. This is all done within the woman. In the uterus, between the uterus and the Queen's chamber in the brain, where the pineal glands sit. The understanding of the self, it gives you the highest access to your power. And when you realize that y'all little earths walking around on earth, but you're also children of the stars, because everything in creation is made up of accumulated stardust. That's how we got here. That's what makes things solid. The accumulated stardust. It forms into our soils and our rocks, and it eventually bursts out as flora and fauna. It's the women who decided how to decorate Earth with the different flora and fauna. Or else we'd have just had one bland, uniform plant for everything that don't work for everything. The diversity came from interacting and communicating with people from other places to put the proper flora and fauna. That's how come the women knew. If you go back and listen to Credo Mutua, he say it was our mothers who went out into the field to really know what they talking about, gonna tell you to eat intuitively.
Right. Then yeah.
She said don't follow
yeah. That's one of the questions that you ask somebody that's so simple, but the answer proves their position And that's being in the position of right, telling the truth, right? Because most people, they take sides with diet the same way they take sides with religion, with politics, because all of these was used as tools to divide us. Even when we start coming out of the slumber, you will see it was the vegan versus the non-vegan. It's the American versus the African American, right? Every time we wake up, they use whatever we waking up in to pit us against each other again. And we fall for it, right? So when I was listening, I heard you answer that question, I started laughing. I said, this is going to show it right here. This is going to show everybody if she the real deal or not. And she aced it.
Indeed. Yeah, shout out to Eric Hines. Great interview. If you haven't seen it, I advise you to go take a look at it.
Yeah, that was fire.
Yeah.
That was straight fire.
Got to get you on one day with her. That'll be a dope show. You and her together.
Oh yeah. Cause they do something. When they be channeling, it's like I can read the streamer. Like I don't channel like women. I read women that channel. And so I can tell you what she's talking about on current events while she's getting her message. I say, oh, she's talking about this. But from like going back after the fact, anybody could do that. I do it live on the spot and no prep.
Dope, man. Hey, Ross, so we miss you, my brother. You haven't been, or you took a break from the whole YouTube thing. A very interesting conversation tonight. We often hear you use the term conjure wars, and I know you're gonna go in, but I would like, for us to set, the context about exactly what a conjure war is. When a person hear a conjure war, it may go over their head. They may think, are you specifically talking about like a voodoo magic type of thing, a cult? Is this like an occult war that you're talking about? What exactly you mean by conjure wars, my brother?
Every secret society perform some form of what's known as high magic. Right now, we are breaking out of the conjure of the interim government, right? So it's three conjures. We breaking three conjures to break the hold of 3 city-states. The war conjure was the Queen's magician. I think his name was John D. Right? He gave her a conjure that gave her charge to military of anybody who was using blood rights to create a construct to keep us trapped mentally, right? So John D and the Queen in Europe did that conjure. They brought us the Bible. The Bible is a conjure called religion. Religion, if you trace the root to the word, it means to bind down to something. You use amen, which means conceal the God within. Every time you use amen, that's part of that Bible's contract. The only way out is to use the Bible as a contract, or read it as a contract, read it as a star map, and read it as a riddle, because it's going to walk you through how to break the conjure spell that is tied to the 1492 arrival of Columbus. They got cities over here with ancient Bible names. None of that was named, none of that before 1492. The Al-Maghrib, which is the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, secondary conjure contract under the George Washington Challenge. This is a blood contract to put the ones that came over as Moors with fezzes in a competition of knowledge and erudition with the ones wearing the feathers. The parameters of that conjure was that anybody that's one of the chiefs on the land, the first one to break free from the conjure is the one that's supposed to tell everybody, break free from the conjure, this is what it is. The hard part is our people didn't remember that we was under a conjure war. So when we start reminding them of Big Mama, we all got Big Mama examples that jars our memory. So when I came knocking Big Mama's drum, that's the little drummer boy trying to become the drum major to lead the band, so you can see what everybody is telling you, a piece of the puzzle, but they can't see the whole thing because we wasn't supposed to. So the Conjure War is all of these sorcerers called priests. They do high magic. Warlocks do high magic, but warlock is not the person. Warlock is a condition that the people are in during the Conjure War, where they're not allowed to access their wealth to deplete the natural resources of the land. And if you look, America has not traded its own oil pumped over here in Mexico and Texas and Arizona, etc. They haven't been trading in that oil because it's in a warlock, meaning it's held in abeyance until somebody remember the parameters of the contract. And this is the constitutional contract written in the blood of Crispus Attucks. That's why they got to keep always tell you he the first one to die in the so-called American Revolution, because they went behind our back after the the Loyalists set up the Constitution to keep the British at bay, but the Dirty Moors, or the ones who came over here to replace us, they went behind and wrote the blood oath in the contract to keep us bound to their constitutional agreement, because it's written that the blood of the righteous shall not be spilled in vain. So when we talk about a Conjure War, it's all of these masters in the secret societies. Now, I got to make them close that stuff. The Haitian Revolutionary Conjure closed. The Broken Mirror Conjure to keep the matriarchs broken up closed. All of these, it's major conjures. Then you got people still right now trying to conjure stuff at the close of an age. And every priest know that when you try to conjure at the close of an age, you reap all of the negative energy from that conjure. This is sorcery at its finest. It's absolute sorcery. It's a conjure. It's voodoo. Well, voodoo is a bad terminology because they told us it was, but voodoo is actually nature science. And that's the only way you're going to see your way out of here. That's why they kept telling us voodoo was evil, to keep us from going back to our ancestral ways. So that's what I talk about, the Conjure War.
What's the difference between voodoo and hoodoo? Because you talk about the
that's denominational.
Okay.
It's like being the difference between the Baptist and the Pentecostal, or Sunni and the Shia. It's denominational. Even when you say Santeria, they use different ways to express an organic culture in the enemy face, because he won't stop you from passing these keys down to the next generation. And this is what takes us to Dr. Clark.
Right.
He's a historian. He read history from angle of different writers around the world. And in the course of writing that history, he give us a position or an understanding of what we're dealing with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Rod, you said voodoo is nature science. I want to just to ask you about nature and what's going on with nature in this country right now. You know, you really do a good job representing this country in terms of telling us that this is our shit, when a lot of us, you know, look overseas for a homeland. And what do you think about the wildfires, the hurricanes hitting Cali? This country's getting tore the fuck up by nature.
We ain't the only one. We ain't the only ones.
Are we supposed to step in and stop, like do some meditation and try to stop the weather, or are we supposed to let it just continue to do what it do? Like, how does this work in terms of
the weather is driven by the emotions of the matriarchs, and they call it when the elephant's swaying, it causes earthquakes. This is the sway of the matriarch. It's an old earth dance. When they got earthbenders, firebenders, waterbenders, airbenders, etherbenders, just like that movie Avatar.
Yeah.
Right. What we're seeing now is all of this is not natural. A lot of it is to create chaos, to keep us distracted from all of the government. That's the bottom what it is. It's a lot of them where they trying to hold on to their last little sips of power, and they're trying to cause as much confusion on the way out as to who's working for the good and who's working for the bad, or who's working for the right and the wrong. Because when you boil this down, this is a kind of, meaning that when you come into the physical realm, everything is how the mind adjusts to that, or how the reality adjusts to the mind. The more minds become aware that the game of the gods is a fifth dimensional galactic chess game, and they use people on the earth to play the game, and then the so-called gods take the form of humans to be blind to what's going on to see if they can figure out the solution to the game. They call it the keys to freedom.
Up in their cribs and shit, because they hitting them in the pockets.
Yeah.
Right. So this the way the tribes from the West Coast say, motherfucker, if you on our land and we can't have none, y'all can't either. If we can't have peace at home, y'all can't have peace in our house.
Indeed.
Why would we let you come in our house, give us hell?
You live nice.
Peace.
Living nice.
Right? So they gave the appearance of legitimacy using the system of uniforms, labels, and titles. And that's what tricked us into thinking that the police was actually our friend. Them motherfuckers don't give two drops of shit about us. Anything you say to them is the wrong thing to say to them. Right?
Yep.
Because they only looking to find a reason to lock our ass
Lock
up.
you up. Yep.
They not trying to solve a crime. They're not trying to bring justice to the community.
Wait for you to slip up.
They trying to find more food to feed their prison industrial complex.
That's it.
Now, the more arrests they make, the higher they move up in rank, the more raises they get. You see a parallel here? Right? So once they get to be detectives, now they get to go undercover in the community and start some real shit.
Yeah.
Right? But we see through all that shit now, all of their tactics, we documented that shit and shared it in the public domain. So we know what they're doing now. There ain't no secret no more.
Yeah.
So now all we got to do is look at the tactic and we can trace it back to the source.
Yeah.
And you got the enemy exposing itself, trying to be an asshole.
Sure. Yep. There's a question here, but I got one more question before I'm going to do that. That question, because you brought something to my mind. I know we ain't really talk about space, but I'm going to do something that still affects all of us, dealing with, us coming into the sun cycle and solar flares. What type? Could you break down the importance of us being now in the sun cycle and the solar flares and how they affect us?
If you go back to I think it's the 18th dynasty, Tutankhamun, you see Akhenaten has a picture of the sun over his family, and at the end of each one of the rays of the sun, there's a hand.
Yep.
So from the sun, we get information, data, input. The sun don't even have to be real for the purposes that it's being used for. It's emitting gamma rays, UV rays, UVBs, all these different spectrums of light is coming from the sun. That's the center of our solar system. Right? As this energy comes to the earth, it gives us information on a DNA level.
Yeah.
Right? So the way that I'd like to describe it is information of life comes in from the sun on angles of light. And these angles of light are angels of light delivering messages to the righteous. I meditate on the water because the water amplifies the message as I become the receiving vessel. I can get a clearer message and it's much more louder. Right? So the streamers in the matrix is the same as the rays from the sun. But the same way we get rays from the sun, each star that's perceptual is also sending light rays to the earth. those stars manifest in the form of human beings. We call them star seeds. Right? The earthborn children of the sun are the originals. Right? And they are the oldest tribes around the world. Right? So we communicate with Mother Nature because when we ground to earth, it's the same as grounding the antenna on your radio in order to get a clear reception on the box.
Indeed.
Right? So back in the day when I was little, we had what we call rabbit ears for antennas on the TV.
I remember those.
Right. But then sometimes we had to use the clothes hanger and tinfoil.
I remember those.
But this is because we're trying to get a good reception.
Indeed.
Now, everybody got a different psychic ability. Because they told us that if we do anything of a psychic nature, we are insane. Most of us suppress our natural psychic ability. So the only way to reignite it is to start practicing as if you know how to use it.
Yeah.
Right? So we use oracle implements like tarot cards, the runes, the I Ching, the crystal readers, all these
pendulums,
all and pendulum, all those are training wheels. The one that you're drawn to tells you which psychic ability that you naturally want to enhance.
Okay.
That's why you're drawn to it.
Indeed. That makes perfect sense. Okay. I'm going to let this question go because I know they put in here and I got another one after you. But the question is, so what happens after people start cleaning out their filters?
When you clean your filter, your organism functions at a higher level. You can facilitate a stronger electromagnetic current, which generates a stronger electromagnetic field, which causes a denser aura, which allows you to be a much more firm and stable person overall.
Makes sense. Another question I have specifically dealing with conjuring, you know, and metaphysics on our, okay, dealing with like hoodoo and as we know, Native American metaphysics, you know, is that something that is all connected to, you know, to Africa, to Kemet, you know, Samaria, whatever the case may be?
Those sciences, like, okay, so these are denominations. Voodoo, Hoodoo, Wicca, Santeria, Brujeria. Those are saying the same with the ancient culture is saying denominations in the Christian church. Right? So they're all part of the ancient arts. Now, when we come up and we begin to become astute in one of them, let's say Hermeticism, we then become required to study all of the rest of them in order to get an overview of what mysticism is really about.
To remain in perpetual ignorance if we don't never figure out that the games they play. And Felipe Wins sang the song, Games People Play. Right? So if you don't know the game, and the game is the game of life, that's a street knock. And if you're knocking up and down the street, you must be a concrete gorilla because you're rocking in the concrete jungle.
That's right.
So these gorillas start knocking the ground, we start bouncing off these skyscrapers. And we make a very peculiar sound as we knock around. Pillar to post, we go. We gonna get these mothers out one way or another.
Go ahead.
It's a game of awareness of self and your identity to where you belong on the land. The secret is if you put your palms to the earth and your forehead and your knees and you ask Mother Earth where you belong, you're gonna unmistakably know if you from this land or not. And if you ain't from Earth, she might cut you off anyway, so it ain't gonna matter. The whole script, narrative, all of this technology is ancient. There's nothing new under the sun. We've done this before. every close of the age, we do the same cleanup from a different system. Whatever didn't work, we cast that off. We keep what worked, and we let the society run in the error until you get to the point where you can take all of the errors out. That's what you call moving into a golden age.
Hey, somebody asked.
Right.
Go ahead. Say all the 33-degree Masons good, or how did that connect with the what we talking about now?
Look,
it's all conjure. Go ahead. It's all conjure.
Listen to the bad. It's a game of universal good cop, bad cop. It's a game of universal who right, who wrong. In the God mind, if there's a possibility of anything, it's a certainty of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you can conceive it in your psyche, it's going to play out in the reality, or else it's not possible to exist. It just might not play out in the manner you see it.
Mm-hmm. Right. To me, 33 degrees is like it's really all a shrunk. It's really we're dealing with Big Mama's calendar about the degrees when the sun coming in Tropicana, when the sun coming in springtime. It's really dealing with it's really like doggone teachings.
Hey, I'm finna send you this again.
It's gonna be hard for me to slide it to this computer because I'm on my other computer where I had to slide it to that computer, then slide it to the hard drive. So, I ain't in that room. I'm in the back room because I'm gonna reset my office up to this back room. But I had did it yet, so I'm gonna have it done tomorrow, so I can be able to do everything. Hey, bro, you cut out.
I'm here.
Oh yeah, so like if you send me something now, I won't be able to slide it to this laptop right here. I only have to slide to my other laptop and then put it on my this hard drive right here. Then slide it to this.
Okay, we ain't gonna worry about it. So
about an hour. You want to take about 30 or 40 minutes worth of questions? Because you got a lot.
Yeah, we could do. We can go to Q&A.
All right, because we got a lot of people on here asking a lot of questions. Hey, if you got some questions for the brother Rod concerning the topic. Okay, somebody asked. I think he talked about that already. Is California going to flood? What about the different safe zones, Rod?
Look, it's floods happening in California already. Vegas or Nevada, I should say. This because of the changing in the flow. When the water, when the pole center reverse polarity, it's going to have an effect on land, air, and water.
Thanks.
We're going to see the effect on the meters by reading Schumann resonance, watching the changes in the frequency, because these are notes, musical notes coming from the center of the earth that's being read by machines that man made to read them.
Yeah, seismograph.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So they can show you what the Schumann resonance is doing. And if you're watching how it's responding to the solar rays, exactly, then that unlocks to you the connection of heaven to earth. The sun representing the crown chakra, right? And the crown chakra talk to the heart chakra represented by the earth. And it's the heart and mind, right? Is the balance between intelligence and creativity, right? And it's the ability to be able to assimilate masculine and feminine understanding of the mechanics of life, right? So we're going to see flood zones, but Mother Earth going to tell you to move if it's time to move. Watch the animals.
Watch the bird. Watch the bird.
I've been telling people this for ever since I've been doing this. Watch the animals.
Thanks.
When they say get gone, get the fuck gone. Because they not going to stay where the disaster going to be. And they going to understand what Mama Earth said before you ever figure out she said something.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right, Rod. That's true.
Pay attention to the animals. They gonna tell you. Men setting fires in warfare right now. And it serves another purpose of giving the alternative explanation for the red iron oxide that's going to be permeating the atmosphere more and more on the next upcoming months or so.
Man,
more cities. Yeah,
man,
more cities going to be reporting that dust on their cars and all that stuff. They're going to be putting it on social media. Y'all going to see it.
That's right.
Right. Now,
like Hawaii always burnt to the ground. Hawaii.
Yeah.
Man, damn.
Some people think it's the rust from the dome cracking open. They say it's rusty shut, it been closed so long.
Oh man, these niggas is crazy. That shit made my head hurt. Thinking niggas like that.
Hey,
God,
whatever happened, I know I'm reading this.
Dust from the dome. What the niggas saying, bro? What the fuck? Oh shit, man. Niggas is getting dumber and dumber. Niggas get dumber and dumber.
Look, I don't have no.
Yeah, right. Go ahead.
Look, every concept of what the earth is true and not true at the same time.
Yeah, so like
we look, we in perpetual creation by mutual agreement by coming to a synthesis at the same time.
Now, is it? Do you think it's something as far as somebody like if you're native, to the land? Do you think is it still up to your choice, kind of to how do you explain it? Like, do you think that you would gravitate more so to something more so native, as far as if you are like metaphysically looking for
natural? Look, our natural swag is the nature of tribes.
Mm.
Our natural swag, the way that we just are, like the people in New Orleans is a certain way. They love a certain way. They share family bond a certain way. You try to take Mardi Gras from them, and they come from all walks of life. They gonna fuck you up.
Oh yeah,
and it's not gonna be personal, right? You're gonna have a problem if you try to take Mardi Gras. That's the cultural thing. That's part of the nature of the tribe on the land down there. The tribes from down there, we didn't just have Mardi Gras in New Orleans. They call it the Grand Carnivals in Brazil now.
Yeah.
Right? It's the Mardi Gras. It's a giant festival. You got different ones. You got one that's supposed to be like the Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah.
That's the type of Mardi Gras festival to recognize the ones that crossed over as warriors. Then you have, let's say, all of those festivals that they have, you be seeing them in South America a lot. Those festivals is cultural festivals that if the enemy would have tried to take that from the people, they would have had no rest on the land. That's just as simple as that. So it kept our cultures intact. Right? Sea walking, crip walking, that's an ancient conjure. Bee walking is the flip side of the same conjure. Cricket walking, right? Then you have in Detroit, we got what we call Jit City. In Chicago, we ballrooming. We stepping. Right? So all of these local traditional dances is the tribal instinct to develop a cultural link through dance and music. We naturally do that.
Yeah. Whew. As always, you're hitting, brother. This, the source of everything, as we in our language we call Papa Hutch, but the source of everything is just a big mom that just wants to take care of you. Just sits back and just saying, so I brought you to this planet. You know what I'm saying? What are you going to do? You know what I'm saying? What are you, and she'll nurture you and she'll whoop your ass, you know what I'm saying, at the same time. But and I love that analogy, man.
And she gonna tell you to sit your ass down right now. You ain't got no business out there in them streets. And I don't want to hear no talk back. And y'all, you gonna be saying, you don't know why you doing it, because in your mind you cussing her out. I ain't gonna listen and all that. But when she tell you, just say yes, ma'am.
That's it.
Right? And you be like, what the fuck just happened? Big Mama spoke.
My mama.
That's it. Don't nothing else need to happen.
I
Because
know
if you
that.
piss Big Mama off, she gonna call Big Papa and he gonna put his foot in your ass.
That's it. You already
And,
know.
and then if you think he too old to tussle with you, and you strong enough, he got one of them boys or two of them boys that's gonna put your new world in order.
That's it.
Ain't no
That's it.
disrespect at Big Mama house. Period. That's all it is to it.
That's it.
That's the law of the family.
That's it.
Right. So
Right.
we gotta all get back to Big Mama house.
Big Mama's house. That's it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you man. I'm telling you, man. I love listening to your lives, man. Because I think you were breaking something down, about Django, and even so, dealing with the slaves, Native Americans, all that stuff. It all starts making so much more sense, and I put it right in the movie. Samuel L. Jackson sitting there writing all the checks when old boy, what's his name, the Leonardo DiCaprio, he out there masquerading like he's really the front, but Samuel L. got all the power behind the scenes. You know what I'm saying? It's all making sense, man. I'm telling you, bro. Because like I told you before we went on here, I was watching when I was reading the first time I got that book, Let's Set the Record Straight by Dr. York, right? I was reading it,
That's
back
a
out.
headbanger there,
Man,
boy.
that'll crack your neck in half, man. But see, I was younger when I first got it, obviously, you know what I'm saying? So I'm sitting there reading it, and I got the information stored in me, all that stuff he was talking about at the time, because I was wearing the red fez, back in and everything. All that information, I got it all. But see, it's a lot different when you start connecting the dots to other aspects of American history. You know what I'm saying? It all starts becoming more alive and more real and more tangible, to this reality we're dealing with
Right.
in
So
America.
it helped you make sense of the struggles we've been through and why we even went through them. We didn't know it. We didn't know in the 60s and the 50s and 20s that we were at war.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. But our ancestors knew that ones that got slaughtered in the 1700s, 1600s, and even the early 1800s. Right. You can see the power struggle, but they telling you that it's something other than what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Right. They telling you that the Boston Tea Party was about excessive taxation. Well, why we ain't having a Boston Tea Party?
Yeah.
We being excessively taxed.
Excessively taxed, yeah.
Right. So then the Boston Tea Party couldn't have been about taxes, because we ain't having a Boston Tea Party right now. So what was it about? There was the crash site. It was the incident that allowed them to declare that we crashed our land map into their ship. Right? So their ship was stuck on a sandbar. And the ship got looted. So when they claimed, that's how they was able to come with the second constitution.
Yeah.
Right? Because the second constitution comes in as a unified company of the Virginia Company and the Northwest Trading Company. They merged to become the interim government. Whatever he needed to do to stop the Illuminati, because George Herbert